Okay, I have thought about this a couple different ways, and for some reason I had the idea, well, why don't we just have, like, instead of having the cable be needing to hold itself and all the length of cable underneath it, why don't we have lengths and divide them with hot air balloons? That way you could have a constant cable and it would be it would be suspended by the atmosphere. But then I wondered why we needed why do we need a cabled system in the first place? Why not send things to space via hot air balloon and just skip it? Well, first of all, the standard function is that you can't go to the orbits around the planet from a state, like you could bring all the stuff up to the Zeppelin, and then the Zeppelin needs to be able to bring it up to the higher sections. And like in general, all you need is a lift coefficient to be slightly above, and then you can just bring up the stuff using a gigantic Zeppelin capable of lifting whatever it is you need to lift, right? So then, what's to stop you from doing that? Oh, by the way, if you want to control helium or hydrogen release and make sure that it can't, like, just escape, one of my first ideas was to use sound to control, but it doesn't work at pressures. Like, with the pressure of helium at the nozzle trying to escape, like, it's gonna push past the sound's ability to keep it in place. And also, you need the helium bouncing around in order to have it do its floating thing in the first place. Because literally, helium balloons are just a net force of all of those atoms just pushing up on all of the rest of it because it's bouncing and stuff. But like, then you got hot air, and hot air is just bouncing around also. It's just you would need a lot more hot air. The point is, like, what is my reason for having a segmented, like, as much as we don't want to use just one cable or one structure, which we can't make strong enough to hold the whole thing up, leading all the way from sea level or the top of a mountain and bring it up to beyond the atmospheric levels. Like, here's the thing, right? I think that people overestimate the kinds of stress that would happen to the cables as they are actually going up from near atmosphere and into the outer regions. Like, once you go out, you're almost weightless, right? So the weight of the cable doesn't matter anymore. It's just something you travel on. Like a tube, you can just, with a bunch of rungs on it, like a ladder, you can just climb up that thing. And it just has to be structurally sound. it doesn't have to hold itself. It just has to hold together. Once you're up there, out of the atmosphere, out of the basic nearby gravity. So, like, obviously, in order, like, there have been estimates, and people have talked about, oh, you need this crazy material that is, like, beyond what we can do, and the anchor point is going to be so much bigger and everything, more than what we can accomplish. And I'm like, you realize we could just use an air balloon, bring it up to an upper atmosphere, and then at that point, when it starts becoming less likely that we can use atmosphere, then we're not being held down by the atmosphere, we're not being held down by the gravity of the planet as much. Can we not, from that point, just yank the stuff up into space and it'll just float up there because there's nothing else doing? Like, why do we have to have a dedicated wire? Like, when we're in the atmosphere, all this area from sea level to upper atmosphere, that is an incredible amount. And my main question is, what is the main thing that when we get to the upper atmosphere and the hot air balloon idea no longer works because there's not enough air up there? It's very thin, up there. So you would have to have a giant pillow fortress, practically like Deadpool scale of insanity, in order to hold the stuff on the atmosphere. Like, there's no way you can actually do it. It, like, using the atmosphere as a support at that point becomes less possible. But I'm wondering, and I really should do the actual, like, analytics of this, because, like, okay, once you get it up to this height, how much force is required to send a payload from here to outer space? And how much length of cable and all the logistics of all of that? And I'm just assuming that even if you were to get stuff up to the highest height that a, say, Zeppelin is able to take a kiloton of material, because you can do that without using rocket fuel whatsoever. You can just use electricity to do that, which you can get from the sun, and you can just also have these like use the type of balloons that use the thermal energy of the sunlight to just make them float without using any power. So getting up there is not the hard part. It's going from there to outer space or beyond Earth's gravitational influence. Like, at what point does the mass that we're trying to move start to lose its gravitational inertia? And what I think is happening is that it's actually the problem is that gap is so big that you're going to need probably a rocket to go from there to up there anyway. And the amount of fuel you'll save is not worth it. That's what I assume just by thinking about, well, what would they think about when it comes to these things? Let's take a look, shall we? Okay. 3,000 feet above, and the world record was exceeding 60,000 feet. What? Video explains the science about hot air balloon altitude. Okay. So, hold on. If you're able to send a hot air balloon into practically outer space, why do we need a space elevator when you could just use a balloon? $69,000 feet. Let's go. Nice. Okay, so let's open another tab. Um, just shut the fuck up. I didn't look up any of this. Shut up. That never happened. It's not something I can remove from my search history. It's just what everyone else is looking at. Shut up. What height or is considered space? That's a good measurement. Okay, so 100,000 kilometers above sea level. Okay. So at wait, what the fuck is this? I am locked. I can't go into a call, so don't call me. Okay, hold on. Kilometers or 62 miles. Fuck you. Okay, so this has gone up to 60,000 feet. 60,000 feet is relative to kilometer. Wait. 69,000 feet. Hold on. I gotta listen to this.
Unfortunately, no. That is because when a hot air balloon rises up into the sky, the atmosphere is becoming thinner and thinner. The air is also becoming lighter and lighter. And there will come a point finally that the air density both inside the hot air balloon and outside becomes the same. And that is where the hot air balloon will stop rising.
Okay, that's not how that works at all, because thinner air just means that you need a bigger surface area in order to hold the same amount of weight with the same amount of temperature of air in the balloon. The air is also colder, so the difference is also greater. You might be wrong about all this, buddy. I'm just saying.
According to NASA, this limit is around 100,000 feet. Given that you're using a helium balloon, but if you decide to use a hydrogen balloon, which is even lighter, well, you may reach higher as long as, you do not blow yourself up.
Okay, hold on. 100,000 feet versus, again, wait, why? Hold on. When I look at this, it says kilometers. It's not measuring it in feet. Where is this number related to something that I'm actually, like, obviously, kilometers, like, and it's thousands of kilometers versus feet. What? Hold on. This doesn't make any sense. It's not the right information. I need translation. Miles and kilometers. So one person's talking about like a tiny amount of stuff, and the other person's talking about. Okay, hold on. No, 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 yes, but no. Hold on. Here's the thing, right? Why am I? Excuse me, can I not? Stop it! Why are you interactive, you bitch? Oh my god, I want to lean into this. What is this? 13 kilometers. Okay. Upper atmosphere 50 or 31 miles. Okay. 31 miles, I can work with that. Hold on. Shut the fuck up. Okay, so people have looked into this whole balloon idea, but they're not thinking with, like, recreational flights is one thing. If we're talking about a size of balloon, and then you have a payload, maybe a person or so, like, say, 100 kilos or something. Don't quote me on this. The point is, wait, so here's this thing, right? My question doesn't like, here's the thing, right? What would it take to go? I have to convert this freaking number. It's useless to me. Convert. Bitch! You had it. Where's the... What the shit is that? Meters? Okay, so 21 kilometers. Right? 21 kilometers? Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, hold on, stop. I know what you're saying, but also we talked about something like 50, so it's about halfway there or something at the outer atmosphere. I don't care where does space begin, International Space Station, all that stuff. That's not my important factor here. Here's the thing, right? The problem that I'm having is that I'm failing to reconcile, like, okay, this is really obvious to me, except for it's blurry. But oh wait, you don't even get higher than a freaking mountain on this bitch. What? No, that's what I'm talking about. This one up here is what I'm talking about, and so forth. Okay, and then you go from there up to there. This is looking. You're not seeing my vision. Shut up. Look. Stratosphere. Ah, okay. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's about that range. It's actually more middle of that range with balloons. But it could be the higher end of that range, which means 50 is not bad. And then after that, you just gotta get it from there. Now here's the thing, right? What is the weight of an object once you get up there? How heavy is something? Like, what kind of newtons of force required to lift something from this stratosphere to actually being like, okay, we're going from there to 3,000. That's something to note. Yeah, that's not lost on me. In fact, the fact that the atmosphere is extremely, like, nearby in comparison to, like, mesosphere. And then you get the thermosphere, which is, like, all of that burn up stuff. Exosphere. Layers of Earth's atmosphere. Like, I don't know. Like, this picture would make sense if it was goddamn not blurry. Give me a second. Wow, that was freaking simple. Okay, so similar, we have weather balloon up to about 50 kilometers and such. Where did I... Freaking ads. Okay, so we have this balloons, and then you end up with the... My question stands that... I mean... Okay, hold on. The lower bound is 80 kilometers. This changes the boundaries of, okay, how much to lift something from 50 to 80. That's the gap I'm talking about. We just need to go 30 kilometers up. We've already made it up to 50. What does it take to get up from 50 to 80? Right? Although the highest balloon, they say, the highest balloon is down at only 21 kilometers, right? Highest balloon, 21 kilometers? That's what I think they said. But here's the thing. It's not about atmosphere. It's about gravitational drop-off. It's about the effect of at what point do you start becoming semi-weightless? Like, how much for... The interesting thing is, and what I'm trying to think of is, what is the force necessary to go from 50 to 80? Because that's all I need. I just need to go from 50 to 80, and I don't care about the rest. So, let's pose that question. Let's say, kilogram, kg, something? Let's pose a question. The estimate cost... This is fucking FedEx. Shut the fuck up, you stupid bitch. Oh my god. Shut up. Okay, hold on. Let's rephrase the... At what point does gravity drop off? It drops to zero, but freaking very high. It's very freaking high. And the other thing is you gotta be going speed. Okay, so that's not helpful. 400 kilometers. And again, it's going at speed. I don't know. Okay, so balloons living stuff doesn't really help anything because trying to move from there to there doesn't give you a lot of lift force. The rockets really push you from the base level, and you have the inertia to push through those empty layers where there is nothing much to push on. Therefore, you could. But I'm saying, what if you didn't have to push? What if you're using a tug rope? Like, at what point can you stop using this? What point, like, if you lift this stuff up to the highest heights, if you start making the space elevator there, are you not able to make, like, would the structure still need to be able to be held and whatever else and stuff? Like, obviously a balloon holding up a space elevator cable isn't really working so great because it's a balloon. But I mean, it's atmosphere, it's stuff, it's top heavy. It becomes top heavy. It'd be held by a, it would be top heavy, but it would be held by the cantilever of the cable is holding it upward and pulling it upward. It's like one of those tensegrity tables, but massive, and that kind of stress maximized to anything other than a tiny table that we've seen is absolutely unfeasible, so let's not think in those terms. I'm not being silly. I'm just asking the question, how far can a balloon get us? And I'm getting mixed signals here. Hot air balloon, all of this stuff, you get up to a certain height, and then you got to take it from there the rest of the way. And what I think, obviously, anyone else would have already suggested is that, yeah, you'd still need a rocket to get it up to there. But if you had the space elevator start there, what are the engineering constraints with that? And the engineering constraints with that is you either need, like, an electric propulsion system to hold up sections, which have to be like an electric thruster, or like some weird. Let's imagine what a crazy idea it is to make your own fuel on a system that suspends itself. So if you don't have a good enough yield, one day you're falling out of the sky. Idea. But that's on the like edge of normal science trying to get us up there. And it's like, it's just better to make enough biofuel on the planet and then use that to make rocket fuel and then get us up there. Right? Like, we can't use high fructose corn syrup to get us into space, but okay. Yeah, so like, when it comes to 3,000 feet, that's nowhere near outer space. And my idea of Zeppelins being used to hold some of the weight. Here's the thing. The atmosphere holding some of the weight leading up there is still going to negate a lot of the structural integrity that you're necessary to build a gigantic skyscraper. Like, if you added balloons to skyscrapers, you could make them be able to go higher than Burj Khalifa like 4 times over. You're still not getting to space. So you'd rather just use a rocket. Right? But here's the thing. The idea of the cable has to not only be strong enough that it also has to hold itself. Again, this is where I think of balloons helping, because instead of like regular air balloons or you use zeppelins and then you have everything suspended, so it becomes like a suspension bridge. Each section doesn't have to hold the entire length of everything below it because it just has to lead from one to the other section. And that works up to the height of where air balloons are useful, and then after that you have like a cloud city and maybe launch a rocket from there. Which, okay, let's make a cloud city. Like, that's ever gonna happen. There's so many ways you don't do that. Like, I'm done. I think I'm done. Am I done? I don't know. I want to watch the whole video now.
Jones and Eddie Redmayne featured a hot air balloon adventure high up in the sky, reaching a height of over 37,000 feet. Although it was not a true story, it was, however, inspired by true events. So in this video, we're going to talk about how high can a hot air balloon go, both technically and theoretically. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Conan, and on this channel, we explore the most intriguing physics and psychology in popular films. So if you want to learn science while watching movies, consider subscribing. So first of all,
I mean, I totally love anyone talking about and analyzing science in any capacity, including Beetle, who I have been shipping to I've been bringing Beetle over and explaining, hey, if you want to talk about AI, talk to Beetle because he's working on it. Except for, is he? Question mark? Meanwhile, they are going into space. It's just a video game, but yeah.
How does a hot air balloon actually work? Well, hot air balloon consists of three parts.
Yep.
At the bottom, we have the basket, which contains the passenger. In the middle, we have the burner, which can be lit on fire.
Or you can have one of those balloons I've explained in other videos and showed links to that allow you to lift without using a propane tank, gas, or whatever fire heating method.
And on top, we have the envelope, which is basically the balloon itself.
This is a standard hot air balloon.
This is a simple physics concept that hot air rises. When the burner heats up the air inside the envelope, the balloon will become lighter in weight because hot air is less dense and less heavy. This will cause the balloon to slowly rise up into the sky. And for the balloon to come down, well, it's rather simple. You can either wait till the hot air to cool down or simply let the hot air out through the small opening on top of the envelope. Either way, the balloon...
Very true. The thing about it is, the fascinating thing about it is you could just use the energy of the sun, apparently, to power the balloon. You don't need all of that amazing amount of butane and heat. You could just use a reflective surface and a scattering absorption surface so that you get all the heat into the balloon and it stays there and it rises, and it's, yeah, you don't need any whatever. But then that's beside the point. That's just, okay, there's a method and it could be free to go instead of, okay, so the tank itself weighs something, the heater weighs a certain amount. Taking those into consideration, you can consider those to be the same amount as the payload. So removing them, it means you have a greater payload, more passengers, more actual stuff you want to take up into an upper atmosphere.
You start descending slowly. So how high can a hot air balloon go? Well, hot air balloons typically fly between 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet. Beneath that, the balloon will very likely crash into the building or into the mountains. But above that, the hot air balloon becomes very difficult to handle because winds and air currents in high altitude is very unpredictable, let alone the weather, be it rainy or stormy or thunderstorm that can happen high up in the sky. So this is one concern. Another concern that we have is the physiological limitations on the human body. High up in the sky, the temperature becomes lower and lower and the air becomes thinner and thinner. And we've already seen any rain.
So obviously you have to have a self-contained air pressure cabin that has to be able to have its own air pressure, or, a spacesuit kind of works. Not the best idea, but
In the movie where he almost freezes to death and running out of breath.
I mean, duh.
But as you know, limits are meant to be broken. While the British aeronauts reached over a height of 37,000 feet in 2005,
Yay.
an Indian aviator actually broke the world record by reaching a height of 68,986 feet, which is almost, over twice the height of the commercial airline that we fly in. But it was
Cool.
unfair to compare this guy with the British aeronauts back in the 19th century because right now in these days we have very high-tech equipment that can help us fly high in the sky, especially some.
I mean, we had diving equipment. We could have made an atmosphere pressure chamber. There's no reason they couldn't have gone up in a scuba suit that has air pumped into it with a tank and whatever, and go up with that and survive for minutes.
Called a pressurized cabin where the passengers can go in and avoid the low temperature and thin air
Or that.
at the high altitude. And coming up this year, a Russian adventurer who is also the record holder
Like
of
a
the
submarine,
fastest round-the-world
but for
travel
space.
in a hot air balloon is attempting to break the previous world record by reaching a height of 82,000 feet. And he's going to be traveling in the world's largest balloon ever built. And this hot air balloon is going to be larger than a space shuttle. But world records are meant
Obviously.
to be broken one after another. So here comes our.
I mean, the more high you have to be, like I said, you have to have a bigger balloon. You have to have more lift coefficients total than the atmosphere. So your total volume versus the volume outside. Like, here's what's really happening with hot air balloons. The hot air is excited, and the cool air basically is moving out of the way as the hot air is pushing around all the stuff. Literally, the cool air settles underneath the balloon and moves out of the way, and the hot air just floats up. It's the same thing as if you did the same type of thing in an atmosphere in water. Instead, you just have the air balloon, except for that doesn't have to do with as much. Well, I guess if you had the air colder, it obviously wouldn't expand as much, so it would not lift. Yeah, if you cool down the balloon, it would compress and it wouldn't lift it up and you wouldn't get out of the water. But as soon as you then heat up that air by a little bit and it turns back into regular air, then boom, you are able to float on the water. The thing is, the atmosphere and the upper atmosphere is obviously, and I understand this, very thin. There's not much that you can actually push on up there. There's not much that's actually able to hold you up, like a hand lifting you up, pushing you out of the way, because it's literally just more dense than you are.
Final question. Where is that natural limit? I mean, where is that physical limitation imposed by nature itself? Well, can our hot air balloon keep rising into the air all the way up into outer space? I mean, it seems possible, but unfortunately, no. That is because when a hot air balloon rises up into the sky, the atmosphere is becoming thinner and thinner. The air is also becoming lighter and lighter. And there will come a point finally that the air density both inside the hot air balloon and outside becomes the same. And
You know, hot air isn't just a certain amount of density, right? You know it's also energetic. So it's not the fact, again, it's not the fact that, well, okay, so it's that even though it's able to lift you up to a certain amount, there is the obvious upper limit where, depending on the exact size, in order to go another magnitude up, where the atmosphere is, let's say you have an atmosphere of 100 parts per million or something, you would have to have twice as much area of your balloon, I think, or no, you'd have to have twice as much volume of air that's hot to lift you up when the air becomes as thin as 50 parts per million. Something like that. Probably wrong? And the question is, at what part per million does it become impossible to use a hot air balloon at all? That's the important factor. And that factor is the only thing that I am focused on. And you don't say that in this, and the air density doesn't matter to me. It matters if you can push up against it. So the thing is, like, okay, let's say that you are able to use the entire thing, like a gigantic blanket of a hot air balloon that's not the size of a light bulb shape, but is instead the size of a gigantic raft. And the raft is using all of the atmosphere, literally a kilometer square atmosphere of air balloon can only go so high until it stops being lifted up by the rest of the air. And no matter what size payload, let's forget that factor, at some point the gigantic air balloon that you're needing to hold yourself on the very thin air will have a maximum effort. There is nothing else you can do. And it doesn't matter if your air is hot, you're not going to do it. Its heat only contributes to its motion, and relative to the rest of the atmosphere, it's still not pushing against anything else. Nothing else is also moving down towards your balloon to try to scoop under it. And the buoyancy just isn't there anymore. There's no actual forces or physical objects that are trying to get lower versus your balloon, no matter how big you make it. And that's my impractical, completely. Kilometer wide balloon, okay? Stupid idea. Actually, insane idea. I don't care how thick you have to make it. I'm just saying a kilometer wide balloon is a gigantic balloon, and even that's going to have a limit. And I'm curious about that, because at some point we could, like, obviously balloons billow and they have limits of stuff. You would end up with a balloon with so many segments. Each segment has its own weight, and that's why I go to a kilometer, because at that point the amount of hot air force in the entire thing would have to be, you would have to have an external heating system heating the whole thing consistently. And even then, you could still only get, this is the height of what you could do with a hot air balloon. And my question is, who cares if you can go up to outer space after that? Because you can't. I know you can't. There's nothing holding you up anymore. You can't go any higher than the atmosphere is there to lift you. I get that. At what point does the atmosphere completely drop off? At what point are you at your maximum? And then what does it take to go from that point to outer space? The transition is all that matters to me. And it might still be too hard to do, even with a kilometer square balloon. You're not going to use a square. But let's just say a kilometer wide. You can use whatever shape you want, but it's a kilometer wide balloon. That's a vision that I have. And it's still not enough. No matter how thin you make it. So that the air, I mean, obviously the other thing about these balloons is that all of the air that's on top is sucked down underneath. So you have a lot of like extra space above. These balloons are designed with like the physics of the air moving around it to be able to get under and pull it up as much, like, it's efficient. It's just how it is.
That is where the hot air balloon will stop rising. And according to NASA, this limit is around 100,000 feet, given that you're using a helium balloon. But if you decide to use a hydrogen balloon, which is even lighter, well, you may reach higher as long as, you do not blow yourself up.
So here's the thing, right? The coefficients of a helium or a hydrogen balloon versus a hot air balloon, you're able to lift a Led Zeppelin. The fact that there are these gases that can lift an entire Zeppelin made of lead, any amount, is fun. And then you have this whole idea of I won't want to stay on this.
Anyways, that's all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Anyway, so yeah, I want to think of this crazy number.
Rising. And according to NASA, this limit is around 100,000.
This number is the thing that I'm stuck at. Because at 100,000 feet, what does it take to get higher? Right? Can you start the space elevator there and continue your progress with, relative torque working on you? You're still going to have gravity for like a while. And really the only reason a space station is able to stay up is it is moving across. And it has basically an exit trajectory. So, like, if you want to talk about, like, where's the natural levitation point, you gotta think of something like extreme heights beyond anything that I've considered. Because these numbers are silly and they are massive numbers. Because, like, this one talks about, like, you talk about you can get to 100. Okay, that's the mesosphere. Then we have to just get from there to the thermosphere. And I feel like the difference between 80, right? If it's 80 and we can get up to 100, that's the max of a balloon. I hate to tell you that, but we're already at satellite range, so we've made it, technically. So once we get the thing to start moving in a direction consistently, like just send it on a payload and just go from there, right? You could lift up the entire rocket, all of its fuel, all of its stuff, with a balloon, 100,000 feet, and you get up this high. And that's what I'm thinking is the thing that frustrates me, because it makes it seem more possible than... Okay, what is that? The ISS is... Yeah, 80 to 700 kilometers. So, if we can go up 100 100,000 feet. I am not doing the math correctly with my brain. My brain! Talking about kilometers, he's talking about... Wait, hold on. 100,000 feet. Let's do another conversion. Feet into meters. That's 10,000, bitch. Shut up. Shut up. Stop! Let me type, you bitch. Stop! Thank you. Fuck. Add another 0 to that. Turn that into nanometers. That's... No, kilometers. 30 kilometers. Okay, cool. So, the max is 30 kilometers. That's what we're talking about. So, 30 kilometers on this chart is approximately what they said here with the stratosphere. We gotta go a bit further to get to the mesosphere, and we can rocket from there. And we're back to where I started. So, again, you can get those rockets up there, bring them up with a balloon, crazy balloons, right? And then send them with the rockets the rest of the way. But my question is, okay, clearly, okay, a certain amount of weight, a certain amount of, the main thing is, if you just have a structure that you're holding on to, and of course it has to be strong enough that it can hold itself together, and the tension and everything, and if you pull on it with the force of a weight that's trying to go up, how slow does it have to go to exert the minimum amount of force and whatever else to lead up to the point where it can actually lead to, like, you know, beyond all of that nonsense. Space treaty nonsense, blah blah blah. Our gravity considers its pull here. The atmosphere does not end here. Okay. So, my thing... Wait, hold on. This is another entire different conversation. Cause shut the fuck up. You're telling me only about 30 kilometers up, 21, what's the... ...30 kilometers up, right? That's what he said. He said 30 kilometers. I made that assumption. I was correct. Let's go. So, the thing is, if there's still atmosphere, right? That means there's something to work with here. That means there's still atmosphere, there's still gravity, there's still everything else. So at some point, you have, like I say, at some point you have no atmosphere that you can hold yourself on. That's why I think of something the size of a kilometer square, because at that point, you're lifting yourself up, and you will lift up, and you must take your entire density to be less than, like, it doesn't matter how much, like, it matters how, like, you and your payload total density is less than the thermosphere atmosphere, which is right. There's still, they say there's still atmosphere up there. So I'm like, huh. I mean, traditional airplanes cannot fly. That's because they are small, tiny little shits. They can't handle the atmosphere because there's nothing to lift them up. They need a lot. Planes are not balloons, okay? Let's just get that out there. Planes are not balloons because they are requiring the air to move across them. A balloon just needs to be lifted up. And again, a plane is tiny. A balloon that I'm thinking about is massive. So, yeah, if you're talking about airplanes, yeah, don't. But if you're talking about balloons, I mean, we see the stratosphere. We see above the stratosphere, above the mesosphere. No, we see midway of the stratosphere. That's balloons. Okay. It's like you think about this side ratio. Okay, so it has to be that much more big of moving air, hot moving air, in order to lift a payload of a few kilograms, right? So multiply that into the factor of all the other stuff that you want to do, and you just need to have a balloon that's a certain multiply of the ratio of that hot air balloon to its payload, right? I mean, all you have to do is have it so that all the air that is around is able to. And here's the thing. You don't want to build, at that point, you don't want to build in the shape of a balloon anymore. You want to build it in the shape of a bull. Sort of. Kind of like a bowl with a lot of holes in it. A lot of stitched together pillows, for example. All those stitched together pillows will have the same area and effects that a balloon has, but their total lift is additive, and so they'll have the ability to not just hold like a radio telescope thing, they'll be able to hold you. I am not dissuaded. About the balloon idea. The thing is, you gotta get to a certain height. After that height, the exact thing that you're capable of doing, right? Imaginary line 100 kilometers up. We only went 30 kilometers up, but there's atmosphere 100 kilometers up. There's something I can work with. Again, once you get to the max height of things and atmosphere, and you maximize the balloon so that the structure is able to be a thing that is holding itself up just above the thermosphere. Have any amount of it above the thermosphere, and you suddenly have a structure in the thermosphere the size of a city, because it has to be in order to hold itself up, and the payload is 10 kilograms. I'm not saying it's rational. I'm saying that's what the 10 kilograms is obviously me being silly and saying a small number. You could go higher than that. How much higher? Depends on the size of your balloon. Really. The size of the balloon, all of the different functions of how you can make lift up there. Like, a gigantic Zeppelin, right, should be able to get up there, and it should be able, if it's big enough, and it has to hold itself together, should be able like the problem with these balloons, right? You get up to a certain height, and then you have to combine other balloons that you've gotten to this height to make it to the next height. And you have to stitch it together. You won't want to do this. I don't think you can make the entire structure and go from the surface straight up to the thermosphere in one go. I think it would be better to just have the structure like be constructed in the stratosphere, and then after that you couple in another 1,000 balloons, and then you go up to the mesosphere, and then another order of magnitude, and you go up to the thermosphere. The question is the density of the atmosphere and how much weight displacement you would have to induce in order to get up there. And then from there, what does it take to get into, like, there's the fact that they say there's obviously the Earth's tug, right? Right? But I'm not talking conventional. I'm talking about very unconventional, it's a mega project, can it ever be done ever? And I don't know. And who cares if it's rational? Screw rational. Make a space elevator or a space platform. It's silly. But it's like, at what point does the space elevator and everything else, like, if you were to make a complete space elevator, right? Obviously, you have to consider the winds up there and everything, and you don't want to get pelted by stuff, and the bigger you are, the more likely you're going to get pelted by stuff. So that's not great. I'm not denying that. The bigger you are, the more likely you're going to get holes in yourself. So you got to be able to self-heal. And good luck making technology that can do that, because a stable structure that's just made to float and then get a pinprick in it from a neutron or something, or just tiny little asteroids or whatever, blah 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 blah. Problems happen. I'm not saying it's rational, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be a crazy thing to try to do. I'm just saying, what is the maximum we can do? With the absolute most. And then what does it take to go from that absolute most to the outside? Because in my brain, all it takes is me going from, like, who cares if we can make a balloon that can go up to the stratosphere? If we can't get to this thermosphere, even if we can make a balloon that can be up in the thermosphere, we still have gravity. We still have all that stuff. Your tethers leading you down, it's like kilometers of cable. It's hard to have anything that's going to be stable and whatever, blah, 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 blah. All of that. That's why I say kilometers wide, because you also have to have all the cables and everything, and that's going to drag you down. And just the weight of the cables is going to drag you down. Multiple cables. The entire structure and everything. Like, yeah, I don't know. My brain likes to think of these things, and I really don't care how much time I waste talking about it. Because I'm just here thinking about it. The Kármán line is fun. But the Kármán line, like, we go down to here where this ozone layer is really it's closer than we expect, right? The stratosphere and the ozone layer is really nearby compared to the thermosphere. It's interesting that there's a bunch of stuff above the ozone layer, and the ozone layer is really thin compared to all of the stuff. But we're totally above clouds at this point. There's no clouds that we're going to go. Once we get to the mesosphere, we don't have to worry about clouds. And the whole burning up in the atmosphere thing isn't going to happen if we're not going too fast. If we're not going fast, we're not going to burn up in the atmosphere. That's obvious. And if we're going to lift ourselves up by cables or something, like, what are the limits and everything about this? And the more I educated myself on this, the more I realized, yeah, it's a crazy idea, but I'm still not seeing them do the prescribed, like, kilometer-wide balloon. So I'm not seeing them do enough. I mean, just the idea of making a kilometer-wide balloon. You can't even make a Zeppelin hold itself together. It's going to crumple. Weather is going to be crazy. But a kilometer-wide assembly of balloons is a lot easier to fees because all you have to do is then join them together such a way that their total lift supports each other somehow. And that's all you really need. So all you need is to get up, again, 1,000 balloons to get up to the stratosphere, and you can get to the mesosphere with that. You've gone up to the first level, then you get up to the next level, and then you have to merge another magnitude. So you need 10,000 balloons to get yourself up to, and at that point you're using 10,000 balloons, and the conventional way of holding up 10,000 balloons, if you're using gas, obviously is a not go idea. No one's going to want to do that. It's too much gas to hold up all the balloons. You might as well be using jet fuel and use your rockets because it's cheaper than the balloons. But if you can use electric, you don't have to use jet fuel. This is my brain on normal. I'm not even tired, actually. This is my brain all the time, okay? Hopped up on Kit Kat ice cream. But regardless of that, my query stands. My question remains. My hypothesis is unbroken. Yeah, you guys still get up to the rest of it. Okay. Like the effects of gravity, and the thing is, you're trying to hold the weight of all the cable that's below you, right? And obviously, it doesn't matter if you can make an asteroid thing on the edge of, like, the whole idea of using a silly asteroid in a geosynchronous orbit that is able to hold the thing, the cable is going to be super long. And everyone says that the cable, in order to hold itself, needs to be bigger and bigger and bigger until it's bigger than the diameter of the Earth. And I've seen that video, and it's true. Conventional means. But then they talked about carbon fiber. And didn't even talk about electromagnetism. Because when you hold stuff together with electromagnetism, everything holds together a lot more. Does it not? So if you had electromagnet cables holding things together, even then you're going to have some point where it all just doesn't work. And at that point, you need segments of the cable to be suspended in place, basically forced to stay where it is. And then you're not lifting a bunch of cable, you're just having a suspension and dangling the cable. And like you have, say, let's say you have a cable that goes up and you have 3 arms on either side that are able to hold it in place and support it in such a way that the rest of the cable is able to go down and have all this stuff about some way to electrically keep you lifted up, or holy grail, passively keep you lifted up. And that's why I keep on going to bigger and bigger amounts of using the straight up atmosphere and heat and air and or lighter than air gas, noble gases, which we start with hydrogen and stuff. What if we had more bouncy gases that are easier to hold in than hydrogen and helium? What if they're more bouncy, right? And it takes less energy to keep them up. But then we obviously end up with the possibility of explosions. Anyway, like helium explosions is like the Hindenburg was like a balloon that held an atomic bomb, only it wasn't really an atomic explosion, but it kind of was like an ignition event. It's not exactly an atomic explosion, but it's crazy. It's up there. It sucks. It's a lot of force and everything. Nowhere near actual atomic explosion. Like the Hindenburg exploding is like, I don't know, a few pounds of TNT versus like kilotons of TNT. You know what I mean? Fermi estimations. Lots of Fermi estimations. Be a lot better if I actually had math. Hey, I don't care. I got some stuff right with some estimations of my own, and I'm really close with this stuff. So that's neat. Why did I say 1% the speed of light? That's not how fast an electron works. That's silly. That's just oversimplifying. I mean, you're literally dividing 2 into 300. That's 150. And then it's the fact that it's 2.2, which means you know what? It should be higher. Why is it 135? I'm not done with that. Why is it 135? .2 goes 135 times into the speed of light, which is 298, is I assume. Okay, let's stop assuming and look up the speed. I love this. Speed of light, okay, 299, whatever. Indeed and whatever. All of this. Give me a second. Let's not be crazy here. So 299 divided by 2.2, 135, 9, 136. It's closer. I was saying more like 150 something. Why is it like that? Right, because if you just divide it by 2, it's 149. Suddenly you add the 0.2 and it turns into this. How does... Wait, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why does that make sense? What? Hold on. What? Well, obviously 2 is a smaller number, so it goes into 299 more times than 0.2. The 0.2 makes a difference between an entire 14% or whatever the number actually refers to. If you're wondering, it's million meters per second. That's how many million meters per second an electron moves 2.2 versus light goes 299. That's the conversion. That's what I'm focused on. And doesn't matter. That the speed of an electron has never been part of my calculations in any of this nonsense. It's always been like, it's always been something about, when it comes to electrons, the thing I've been focusing on is the speed translated from kilometers per second, which has always been 2.2 thousand kilometers per second. Please hear me when I say 1,000 kilometers per second, because that's stupid. Because it's 1,000 meters per second is a kilometer, right, per second. So why don't you just say a million, right? So it's 2.2 million meters per second. And then if you go to the other smaller distances of a tenth of a nanometer, you get 22 quadrillion atomic width per second. That's why I'm focused on that number. It's relative. It's relating to the fact that, shut up with the relative. That's not what I mean. I don't even like the fact that he even used that word. Man, I can talk about the train incident. I'm not going to. Okay, some idiots think that if you have a flashlight on a train and a flashlight on the ground, and you look at the speed of light, the train flashlight light is supposed to be supposedly going faster, and if it's not going faster, it must be because time is manipulated. No, you stupid fuck. The light doesn't care the fact. Light does not give a damn shit about it's going in a train. What does light do? It moves through an atmosphere on its own damn propulsion, like a jetpack. It doesn't give a shit it's in a train because it moves through electromagnetism. The train is not moving the electromagnetic area. So the light in the train is moving exactly the same as the light outside because there's no atmospheric difference that would force it to move differently. If you're talking about a train moving fast that has water in it, then the light moving in water would obviously move slower. It doesn't, and therefore, if you speed up the water train, then you would change how fast the light can move. And if somehow you got the train to move very fast, then the water train would end up moving faster than the speed of light. Cherenkov radiation. Look it up. But that's the joke. But it's also fascinatingly true, and also shut up. But the point is, unless you change the atmosphere, light doesn't give a crap whether it's on the ground, in a train, in a plane, in a jetpack. It's gonna, in an atomic clock, it's gonna move at the same rate unless the atmosphere changes what speed it goes. That's how it works. So that's why there is no there's no weird space-time shenanigans happening in the train to make the light move the same as everywhere else, because light's just moving through the atmosphere. The electromagnetic field. Right? So if you accelerate the electromagnetic field, then that would make the light be able to go faster. If you were to have the train accelerate also the electromagnetic field, right? Not just the atmosphere in the train, but the area that the light is traveling through, you accelerate that electromagnetic field, you should be able to accelerate light itself. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about naturally not interfered with light. Therefore, the reason why the light goes the same speed on the train as it does as a person standing still on the ground, that light progresses forward in the same rate because nothing's changed how it should speed whatsoever. It's not the speed of the object and the other thing cancel each other out so they look like they're moving the same. No, nothing is changing the speed of the light. The motion of the light through space is unimpeded. So there's no reason to think in those terms. Going back to YouTube. Shut up. This is stupid. Okay? It's stupid. And it's frustrating me because you don't have... I'm going to watch this.
In the center of a speeding train car, and another standing on the platform as the train races by. As the center of the car passes the observer on the platform, he sees two bolts of lightning strike the car, one on the front and one on the rear. The flashes of light from each strike reach him at the same time. So he concludes that the bolts were simultaneous, since he knows that the light from both strikes traveled the same distance to his eyes at the same speed, the speed of light. He also
There's nothing wrong with that.
Predicts that his friend on the train will notice the front strike before the rear strike, because from his perspective on the platform, the train is moving to meet the flash at the front and moving away from the flash at the rear. But what does the passenger see? As her friend on the platform predicted, the passenger does notice the flash from the front before the flash from the rear, but her conclusion is very different. As Einstein showed, the speed of the flashes as measured in the reference frame of the train must also be the speed of light.
No. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna smack you with some very serious truth. The information from here and the information from here, and then it's moving forward, means that, yeah, what you would notice is you would notice the signal from the back of the train would hit you later than the signal from the front of the train. Why are you saying this some other what?
Well, because each light pulse travels the same distance from each end of the train to the passenger. She can only conclude one thing. If she sees the front strike first, it actually happened first.
No person believes. No, What, the fact that you took it back, shut up! Okay. Antidepressants, what?
Whose interpretation is correct? The observer on the platform, who claims that the strikes happened simultaneously, or the observer on the train, who claims that the front strike happened before the rear strike? Einstein tells us that both are correct.
No! Okay, this is where Einstein is an idiot. Fuck no. No. Shut the fuck up, and also no. Let me explain to you why. If you had a photosensitive sensor on the front and back of the train, assuming you had and also on the ground, you would be able to tell with microsecond precision, or whatever precision you want, that the light happened at the same time. There's no question about that. Your observing situation is that you got the information of the simultaneous strikes at different times because you're moving towards, so it happens sooner, and away, so it happens later, is not about the happening, it's about the you knowing thing. There's a difference, okay, you dunce motherfucker. No, Einstein, you're stupid. I'm sorry, but you're stupid and wrong. Okay? The information travels at the speed it is capable of. Now, if you're moving at relativistic speeds, this will happen in a very bigger, more extreme way. Okay? The faster you go, it'll take longer and longer for that light signal to get to you. And if you're moving faster than the speed of light, then you could see the light strike as happening on yourself. You'll notice it happen almost instantly, which the brain can't process fast enough because nervous system isn't as fast as actual light signals. Who cares about that? Let's just say that you would never know that the light signal from the back ever occurred, but it fucking did. So shut up. Because actual events only happen with real time in actuality. It doesn't matter if you never know that that second lightning strike ever took place. If you're going faster than the speed of light, you'll never know it happened. And if you're going faster than the speed of light, technically, you'll notice if you're going fast enough, you won't even know the first lightning strike happened. If you're going so fast, that first lightning strike that hits the front of the train first, they happen simultaneously. Shut up. The front, I'll say it correctly. The front, yes, I was incorrect. I can correct myself. Shut up. The front lightning strike will not send its signal to you because you're going so fast, you don't know it's happening. That is observer bias, and it has to do with relative motion compared to the signals, but the events are not based on the signals. The events are based on the actual occurrence of each event, which has nothing to do with the observer. It is the complete, total observation of something that is relative to the guy on the platform is correct, technically. But he is not moving. He is on a planet that is spinning at a certain rate, and so his signals, shut the fuck up, they are not received simultaneously. There is a deviation. How much? It depends on the direction of travel relative to the rotation of the Earth. And that is important. So put that into your facts and stuff it, because you're not right ever. You've gotten it all wrong. You screwed up everything and made people think stupid things. Shut up. I'm tired of this. No. And the problem is, if Einstein believed this, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Within their own frame of reference, this is a fundamental result of special relativity. From different reference frames, there can never be agreement on the simultaneity.
The simultaneity is about, about having an objective measurement system, something that is not subject to your motion. You have to be an outside observer and not let your own motion influence it. However, if you're going to be smart, you're going to know your own speed. You're going to have a freaking kilometer an hour thing, a speedometer, to help you know how fast it's going. And compared to actual light signals, again, if you're going fast enough, you won't even know either of them happened. That just means you're dumb. You have bad systems. You don't even know that took place. So you need something that is able to actually record the information correctly and not have observer bias. Then you have the correct information, true information, not, or you need to compensate for your speed. And when you compensate for the speed, you know it happens simultaneously because you're not being stupid. You are a target moving towards the front signal, away from the back signal. Reverse it, and the same cannot also be true if you got some special relativity nonsense. No, it's not about any of that. And if you have 15 trains going in all sorts of different directions, hit in the exact same position versus the center, and they are all going in radial different directions. One of them is going this way, one of them is going sideways, one of them is going this way, one of them is going that way, and relative to the center, lightning strikes happen simultaneously on exact distances from the center. They will all notice the same weird phenomenon, but you know exactly, if you were in the center, where they are, where they hit, what actually happened. As long as your motion, blah, 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 and you compensate for things. If you don't compensate for the motion of the solar system through the galaxy, I don't want to call you correct even in the slightest. But we're not going to be that accurate. We're not even going to be as accurate as the motion of this planet through the goddamn solar system. We're going to be as accurate as at least the rotation of the Earth, and if not that, at least as accurate as a person who's generally not moving is the bench line. Stuff that is moving has a skewed frame. Incorrect. Never correct. Never considered correct. Always compensate for all of those different motions, and you need to know that. Don't be dumb. Don't be simple. It's impossible that Einstein thought that, it happens either before and which one is it? Only one of them is the truth. Reality is only one of them is the truth. It happened at the same time. There is no, the front happened first. Right? It doesn't matter if you have observers from the top, the bottom, the side, or another person going in the opposite direction on a bicycle. I don't care. Compensate for the directions of movement of the observer, and then you have a correct information. Don't be dumb. I'm sorry, don't be dumb.
Events.
Please don't be dumb. I will like this video for describing the Einstein's idea. It is correct in describing that, and unfortunately now I have to subscribe to this guy. But the problem is there's a difference between saying what's actually happening and saying the hypothesis of a person who got it wrong. And I'm sorry, Einstein, you got it wrong. And I would say it to you gently, but it's been 100 years. We're trying to move past your mistakes. But we're not making headway if we're having 18-year-old videos, and this is the same stuff. People still believe this shit. People still believe this shit. People to this day believe this shit. There are not recent comments. 18 years. Holy shit. Has YouTube really been around this long, and we've had animations this long? Yeah, I existed back in 2008. I know. I'm sorry, he was wrong. That theory, time dilation, also wrong.
One evening in the spring of 1905, Albert Einstein, then a mere patent clerk at Bern, after trudging through his day's work, decided to board a tramcar on his way home. Einstein would often wrap up his work as soon as possible to contemplate the truths of the universe in his free time. It was one of these thought experiments he devised on that tramcar that revolutionized modern physics forever.
Fucked it up forever.
While receding away from the Zeitglocke clock tower, Einstein imagined what would happen if the tramcar were receding at the speed of light. He realized that if he were to travel at
I'm gonna throw up.
186,000 miles per second, the clock's hands would appear to completely freeze. At the same time, Einstein knew that, back at the clock tower, the hands would tick along at their normal pace. For Einstein, time had slowed down.
I'm sorry, no. Here's the thing, right? If you're going so fast, and if you can actually still see that clock, you got a great binocular. But however, and no one has that. No one has that. No satellite, I don't give a shit what you have, no one has that. However,
this thought blew his mind. Einstein concluded that the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time.
The signals get to you, it takes a while for them to catch up. If you're talking about something that happened 1 billion years ago in space that is 1 billion light years away, guess what? It was 1 billion years ago, and it'll take a while before you realize what's happening now. Guess what? You won't be alive for it.
How is this possible? Einstein's work was heavily influenced
Because I don't think you're going to live past like 2,000 years. I'm just saying.
By two of the most iconic physicists of all time. First, there were the laws of motion, discovered by his idol, Isaac Newton. And second were the laws of electromagnetism, laid down by James Clerk Maxwell.
I have to
Newton's
subscribe to
laws
this person
insisted
too.
that velocities are never absolute, but always relative, so that their magnitudes must be appended by the phrase, with respect to. For instance, a train travels at 40 kilometers per hour with respect to someone at rest. However, it only travels 20 kilometers per hour with respect to a train traveling 20 kilometers per hour in the same direction.
Yeah, but you understand also you're on a planet that's rotating, so in respect to someone who's not moving out in outer space, you're going damn fast.
Or it travels 60 kilometers per hour with respect to another train traveling in the opposite direction at 20 kilometers per hour. This is also true for the velocities of Earth, the Sun, and the entire Milky Way galaxy. On the other hand, Maxwell found that the speed of an electromagnetic wave, such as light, is fixed at an exorbitant 299,709,000.
If it's fixed, that means it doesn't change no matter where it is? Question mark?
2,458 meters per second, regardless of who observes it.
Yeah.
However, Maxwell's notion seems incompatible with Newton's notion of relative velocities. If Newton's laws are truly universal, why should the speed of light be an exception? This presented Einstein with a daunting dilemma.
So how is light able to move at a steady pace no matter where it is?
conflict between the ideas of Newton and Maxwell can be demonstrated with another of Einstein's brilliant thought experiments.
Light doesn't move through, and if it's a regular atmosphere, light doesn't give a damn, and it'll just keep going. Stuff.
Einstein imagined himself on a train platform witnessing two lightning bolts strike on either side of him. Now, because Einstein stands precisely in the middle of the two strikes, he receives the resulting beams of light from both sides at the same time.
In a thought experiment, in a perfect thing that's not moving, yes, okay, sure.
However, things get more complicated when someone on a passing train views this event while whizzing past Einstein at the speed of light. If the speed of light conforms
If you're moving at the speed of light, again, you won't receive the information.
to the rules of relativity, then the person on the train wouldn't witness the lightning strike simultaneously. Logically, the light closer to the man on the train would reach him first. A measurement of the speed of light.
Again, it doesn't matter about how fast a signal occurs. That's like saying if you have a petri dish, the reaction from when you put a droplet of soap and when that soap spreads out to the entire petri dish, relative to the center and stuff, are you saying the soap bubble is expanding any faster in any... No.
Made by both men would differ in magnitude. This would contradict an apparently fundamental truth of the universe. Einstein had to make a difficult choice. Either Newton's laws were incomplete, or the speed of light was not a universal constant. Einstein realized that the two notions could coexist with a small tweak in Newton's laws.
Again, if you're moving relative to the speed of light, the signals need to catch up to you. You can slow this down by just trying to keep up with a ball, and it'll take you longer to keep up with the ball if you're going slower. But eventually, if it stops, you'll get to where it landed. And if you're going faster, you'll get there sooner. If that makes sense to you, and everyone should say, yeah, it makes sense, then the speed of light and the stuff that happens there, blah, 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 events happen when they happen, propagate as they propagate, and you find out about it when you find out about it.
To get rid of the discrepancy in the measurements,
Relative to your
Einstein
motion
suggested the time
compared
itself
to...
for the man on the train must slow down to compensate for the decrease in speed, such that the magnitude remains a constant.
No.
Einstein called this absurdity time dilation, and his newfound theory was
Wow. Saying it's an absurdity right out the bat. And the problem is, I'm saying, yeah, you're not wrong. That's absurd. It doesn't happen that way.
special relativity. Newton believed that time moved unflinchingly in a single direction, forward. Einstein, however, had just realized that time stretches and contracts, varying with velocity. Due to its malleability, time...
Again, if light and time and all this other stuff were to go and stuff like that, we would have so many problems with jets and rockets. We would have so many more problems than we ever observe, and we don't observe those problems.
Like space, deserved its own dimension. In fact, Einstein claimed that the two were one and the same.
Yeah,
Together,
space-time.
they formed a four-dimensional fabric or continuum called space-time, upon which...
You know what else is actually everywhere? Electromagnetism. Or I should say the electromagnetic field. Not the relationship with electromagnetic field and electrons, which is electromagnetism, but the field itself is everywhere.
the mundane events of the universe would unfold. Einstein suggested that massive objects like the sun didn't pull bodies like Earth with a mysterious, inexplicable tug, but rather
They do.
curved the fabric of space-time around them,
They don't.
forcing Earth to fall down into this steep valley.
The amount of attractive force considered by a magnet can be considered to be an area of influence similar to the area of influence of a nearby star or other celestial body like a planet or whatever. Or you if you're fat enough. But
A highly simplified analogy is the dip in a trampoline made by the bowling ball. If a marble were placed on that trampoline, the marble would immediately roll towards the bowling ball in the center. This is also
so why doesn't it actually move towards the bowling ball in the center? Why does the moon never hit the Earth? It's because we're all moving relative to everything. So we going around the sun makes it so that the whole gravity well, the pull of the planet, which is the moon, towards the other planet, the Earth. Shut up. The moon's a planet. It's just like Pluto.
true for Earth's gravity. We are pinned to the ground because space, so distorted by the Earth's mass,
No.
pushes us down from above. However,
Sort of.
the slump in the fabric around Earth is not uniform, and Earth's gravity grows more intense as we move towards its center, where the curvature is at a maximum.
It's also the fact that there are other stuff that's pressing down on you, and all of the flow of the electromagnetic field is going in and out at higher volumes.
Therefore, like the marble on the trampoline, an object that falls towards the Earth accelerates as it races towards the center of the planet. It falls faster with
You know that the planet's also moving towards everything that's it's falling towards, and we are literally shooting off particles to the atmosphere in the outer space all the time. We are a comet going through the space. It's just that the particles are so small and thin, we don't see our little dust trail. But we can witness it if we have sensitive equipment.
just above the surface than it does, say, when it is slightly above the atmosphere. But hey, according to special relativity, the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. This means that time runs slower on Earth's surface than it does above the atmosphere.
Doesn't.
Now, because different planets have different masses, and thus different gravitational strengths, they also accelerate objects at different rates. As we have learned, this means a variable passage of time. This is what happens in the movie Interstellar, when the protagonists land on a planet in the proximity of a black hole. The gravity on the planet is so severe that 1 hour on the surface is equivalent to 7 years on
Based on this theory, and it's unfortunately false.
Earth. To understand how motion affects time, let's consider the simplest timekeeping mechanism. A second passes each time the photon is reflected. Let's imagine two people, one in...
Okay, now again, if you can't reconcile the simultaneity of two lightning bolts from a train, why do you think that a light signal from a bouncing thing like that, it's still a light signal that you're receiving as the photon is bouncing? So, yeah, there's discrepancy the faster you go. Oh wow, that light signal clock is worthless at changing speeds, unless you compensate for them.
A spaceship slightly above Earth's atmosphere, and the second on top of a small hill just above the Earth's surface. Both are watching a man fall from space towards the ground. Let's say that the falling man is carrying the photon clock explained a moment ago. What do each of the two men observe as the man falls past them? What they observe is eerily similar to what a stationary person would observe.
Something irrelevant.
When watching a ball bounce in a moving train. As the man falls from space, the light in his clock would appear to move in triangles to the two observers. This would mean that the light travels a longer distance, consequently stretching the duration of a second. It is obvious that the length of triangles the light traces.
Okay, listen. If you're moving the targets, guess what? Light has to go a further distance in order to keep up with it. So it takes longer for the bounces to happen. Does that not compute in anyone's brain? Apparently not.
And therefore the duration of a second is proportional to the velocity of the falling man. When we recall that...
You mean the duration of light pulses that we've already said, based on the observer, can be completely irrelevant and inaccurate in comparison to someone who is not moving.
Objects closer to the center of the planet fall faster, we can determine that time would appear to pass slower to the man on the hill than it does to the man in the spaceship above. Of course, the difference is infinitesimal. The difference between the time measured by clocks at the top.
Even if you could measure it, it is not an accurate clock. It's an inaccurate clock, and it's not a compensated for momentum thing. Literally, if you throw a ball at a moving target that's moving away from it, if you're able to keep up with the target and you hit it, then okay, you have ticked a second. But the moment that that target moves a certain speed, faster than you threw the ball, you're not going to have the correct tick of a second, now are you? Why would it be any different with light? And also the fact that light doesn't care how fast you're moving, it moves at the same rate because it just moves through the EM field, not through mass, unless the mass changes, like when moving through glass or moving through water. We're assuming the light is moving through air. So there's no difference. So no difference should be noticed. Unless you consider the distance it had to travel per second has changed. Because its velocity has changed, which is distance over time. If there's distance more, then the ticks are going to be different. Not that the time has changed.
The mountains and at the surface of Earth is a matter of nanoseconds.
Nanoseconds.
Time dilation affects every clock, whether it relies on basic electromagnetism or a complex combination of electromagnetism and Newton.
Not every clock. Not a correctly compensating for velocity clock.
Laws of motion. In fact, even biological processes are slowed down. Yes, that's right. Your head is slightly older than your feet.
No. Again, if signals and electricity and whatever else, all the type of propagation of waves and everything and stuff, you can't send the signal to your head and to your feet and whatever else. Obviously, first of all, your head is much closer to the thinking thing than your feet is. It takes milliseconds for that signal from your head to get to your brain versus the milliseconds it takes, the hundreds of milliseconds it takes to get from your feet to your brain and from your fingers to your brain. And the brain stitches it all together to make simultaneity. So when you touch your foot, it sounds to your brain like it happened all at the same time, because you really can't tell much of that difference. There is a little bit of discrepancy, but you won't know. That's because your brain stitches it together. But a proper sensor, compensating for everything, would know that, yeah, the signal took its time. It got up your leg, it got through your spine, and it got to your brain, and your brain processed it. And also, the signal from your fingers got up your arm, got to your neck, into the brain. It takes time, and those information bits are processed by the brain as it happened at the exact same moment. Because really, the difference of the moment, when you consider milliseconds and nanoseconds like this, your brain just is not fully it's extremely hard to, as a person, tell the difference. However, this is if you actually look at the physics of it and the moving target problem, you realize this is dumb. So of course, my idea and my complete idea that I am 100% sure is the truth, because it freaking makes sense, is that there is no such thing as time dilation. There is no bending of space-time. There is the simultaneity freaking happens. It is, if it's simultaneous when they both hit the thing, it doesn't matter how fast it took the signal to get to you. It's about when the thing actually happens, which is an independent measurement done entirely separately than a thing that is moving. Once you start moving, you're fucked. So you have to compensate for your movement or you're dumb. So unfortunately, yeah, time dilation. Everyone who talks about time dilation, they all get it wrong. This is genius, by the way. Shit.
What would it look like to ride alongside a beam of light? This is a
This is fun.
question Einstein asked over 100 years ago. Now the trouble was he couldn't actually do the experiment, so he had to use his imagination. He had to do a thought experiment to figure out what a reasonable
You're so young. What happened to you?
outcome would be.
I could imagine there'd be some element of nausea.
I'd imagine everything would get more intense.
Maybe it would confuse the brain. I don't really know if you'd be seeing very much.
Let's just imagine that the instances of all the stuff that happened are going to be sent to your brain in literally hundreds of seconds, and it's just that your brain might miss some parts.
I was on a water
It does
slide
that
just
anyway.
a couple of days ago, and I found that really difficult.
Einstein's intuition told him that the world should feel the same in all frames of reference moving with constant velocity. These are called inertial frames of reference. So it doesn't matter if you're in a train, or on a plane, or in a car, or in a room. As long as you're moving with constant velocity, the laws of physics should apply in exactly the same way. And this is what's called the principle of relativity.
If you're all moving at the same velocity, that means your room is going the speed of a train. I don't think it is, so let's just say no. But for the sake of argument, yeah, it all is constant velocity. So yeah, if the train's not, if the train's stationary, same as your room, all blah, 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 blah.
Is there a speed limit in the universe?
I don't think so.
So you can go as fast as you want.
Probably.
Could we go as fast as light?
No, I'm sure eventually, absolutely.
Can you compare the speed of sound and the speed of light?
It's however many times quicker, isn't it? Because you got the lightning and thunder.
Roughly how much quicker is
10
light?
times.
Roughly 10 times?
10 times? I think it's a 10 or 100, I don't know, something like that.
The
These are people who haven't like kept their heads in that science class that they just left.
answer for you is 1,000,000.
Oh.
Light is 1,000,000 times faster than sound.
Perhaps thought, or
Thought is faster than light.
yeah,
No.
it's immediate. It's there.
So let's do a little thought experiment.
Obviously, this person hasn't done a lot of like looking at biology and stuff, so there's no problem with that. It's just uneducated. It doesn't matter. What matters is
Say
what
I'm
he
on
says.
a train traveling the speed of light that way. Who am I kidding? This is City Rail. We're lucky to be moving. But let's use our imagination. So let's say I'm traveling at the speed of light this way. If I hold up a mirror in front of my face, will I be able to see my reflection? Do you see the problem? In order for me to see my reflection, light has to bounce off my face and travel to the mirror. But if the mirror is going forwards at the speed of light, how is the light ever going to catch up?
Yeah! Wow. Holy crap. The moving target problem. He gets it. Does he?
So a logical answer would be that no, you can't see your face in a mirror when you're on a train traveling at the speed of light. But that violates the principle of relativity because it means
No, it doesn't.
that I can tell I'm in a frame of reference that's going at the speed of light that way. Oh crap, not again. So let's consider the other option. Maybe I do see my
It violates yeah, maybe relativity is just stupid.
reflection, which means the light must travel from my face to the mirror at its regular speed, the speed of light. But now the problem is, someone outside the train would see light traveling at twice the speed of light. Because
Okay, you started going into Crazy Town.
I'm already traveling at the speed of light, and the light is traveling at the speed of light relative to me.
Duh. End of topic.
if that makes any sense. So
I'm vomiting right now.
that leads to a really inconsistent answer. Because how can the speed of light be twice the speed of light in that frame of reference?
Again, the only way that the speed of light would ever speed up is if you sped up the electromagnetic field that it's flowing in.
So Einstein's conclusion was that I must see my reflection because otherwise it violates the principle of relativity.
Relativity is then, first of all, wrong, and second of all, stupid that you've been believing it this entire time.
But in order for me inside the train to measure the same speed of light as someone outside the train must actually contract in the direction that it's moving. And
we know that doesn't happen. Well, okay, listen. The faster you go, your molecules and everything don't like to really hold rigid. They like to really squish together unless you have like what you call inertial dampeners, which is the thing that is holding everything together like a big electromagnet, or I should say sound would be the thing that would hold everything, because you can't hold neutrons. So if you had inertial dampeners that were for electromagnetism, and you tried going at certain relativistic or near relativistic speeds, the neutrons would fly right out of you and you disintegrate. So don't do that. Don't do that! Use sound.
my time must tick by
But sound doesn't move faster than light, so we can't move faster than the speed of sound that we have.
slower relative to someone outside.
That's the funny thing. We've gone Mach 11. 11 times the speed of sound. So we can go faster than the speed of sound. Therefore, we are able to hold ourselves together, but speed of light still way faster than the speed of sound. So we can't get there. Something.
So Einstein changed what we thought were absolutes, space and time.
If you can go faster than the speed of sound, you can go faster than the speed of light. Question mark. Because if sound is able to move... Okay, here's the thing. If you're already able to move through space, holding yourself together with regular stuff, and not disintegrate faster than the speed of sound, again, Mach 11, Mach 12, Mach freaking 20, or however fast people have been able to get to, if you're able to move faster than the speed of sound, which we already can do, in a freaking jet, okay, or a rocket, alright? If you can move faster than the speed of sound, then you can already propagate yourself and hold yourself with a sound. The thing is, the sound isn't what's holding you together. You're held together with the electromagnetism and everything else, relativity and everything, something. Jets work anyway. So the point is, if your jets aren't disintegrating past the speed of sound, then you're able to hold yourself. And therefore, what if the momentum and speed of something doesn't break down if you're able to hold it? The only thing that really holds together, again, the neutrons. But the neutrons can also be held together by the protons and everything, sort of, by the forces of everything that stuff. Again, crazy speeds.
And made something that seemed like it should be relative, the speed of light, into the true universal constant. So what would it look like to travel alongside a beam of light? Well, according to Einstein, we'll never know, because we can't go that fast. At that speed, our length would become zero. Time would...
Okay, again, it's... The idea of your length becoming zero, totally ridiculous. The fact that the signal of the light moving, and if the mirror is moving at the speed of light or faster, again, the signal will never reach it. You'll never get a reflection, and light coming from the front of you is going way fast towards your eyes, burning them? That's not good.
Stop relative to an outside observer, and perhaps worst of all, our mass would become infinite. But a recent experimental result has suggested that neutrinos can go faster than light. Still, most physicists think that, well, this result probably won't hold up to scrutiny.
Okay, Cherenkov radiation already goes faster than light in water, but...
Because the principle of relativity is just so well established nowadays. But who knows?
It's maybe well established, but it doesn't mean it's right. It's actually insanely wrong, and the fact that you're saying that the light could ever reach the thing that is going faster than it is like saying I, as a runner, can move faster just because someone observes me differently. And I don't know about you, but I don't care who the hell is watching me run, I can't move faster depending on who's moving relative to me. That's not how I move work. I move because of the work that I put in towards moving. So my running speed is the same, and I don't care who the hell's watching me. I move at, let's say, whatever speed. And right now I'm in a chair, so I'm not moving a lot.
Perhaps one day we'll find a way to break what we thought was the universal speed limit, the speed of light.
We already broke the speed of sound, so that's the hard part done. The thing about the speed of light is in order to hold material together, again, the normal way of holding stuff together is the electromagnetic and the strong nuclear force and the weak nuclear force and all of this stuff. And if you can't use sound in order to hold yourself together near the speed of light, because clearly we're already able to go faster than sound, then if you don't need sound to hold you together, then yeah, there's a maximum speed, and I guess we will never get there. So the other alternative that people talk about is, of course, moving the space faster than light. Space didn't matter and whatever, something, but you can't physically move space, because space doesn't curve, space doesn't do a lot of things and whatever else. Also, it's interesting that you have not as many likes as views. I'm sorry. I'm just bothered that you ever said that the light could reach the mirror. If you shoot a bullet at 1,000 meters per second, and you have something going 1,001 meters per second, the bullet will never hit there. Light is just another bullet. It won't get there. It's just faster. I'm sorry, but no. I'm sorry. No, this is the problem. Everyone believes this. It's not just about one person. It's not about Einstein. It's everyone. It's this. I responded to you, and you are dumb. And you're dumb. And I'm not going to apologize for the fact that you're dumb. I'm not going to apologize for it. For saying that you're dumb. My statement stands, you're dumb. This video is dumb. Because again, it talks about the observer of a signal from a distance. Where is my goddamn comment? Bitch, where's my comment? Do I have to put all these comments in the description? No?
Identical twin.
I don't need to put these descriptions into the video. You can see it. You know where it is.
astronauts volunteer for an experiment.
It doesn't matter how long ago the video was, they believe it to this day and they're still wrong. I'm sorry.
Terra will remain on Earth, while Stella will board a spaceship. Stella's ship will travel
That's
at
cute.
86.6% the speed of light to visit a star that is 10 light years away, then return to Earth at the same speed. As they prepare to part ways,
Remember that speed of that percentage of the speed of light is about 86. So, again, how many light years are you moving per year? 86% of a light year per year. Get that in your head.
the twins wonder what will happen when they're reunited. Since a light year is exactly the distance light can travel in a year, Stella's journey should take 23 years. But from having studied special relativity, the twins know it's not that simple. First of
Really?
all, the faster an object moves through space,
You can't make
the
simple
slower
maths.
it moves through time, compared to an unmoving observer.
Again, this unmoving observer nonsense is nonsense. I'm sorry, time dilation doesn't happen. It just doesn't. I'm
This
sorry.
relationship can be quantified with something called the Lorentz factor, which is defined by this equation.
Here's a new
And secondly,
word for
the
you.
length of a moving object as measured by an observer at rest will contract by the same factor. At 86.6% the speed of light, the Lorentz factor is 2, meaning time will pass twice as slowly aboard the spaceship. Of course,
Let's say it does, but again, the speed you're moving is you will have moved 86% of a light year away in the course of a year. Right? That math doesn't change. And the amount of time you experience is a subjective thing designed genuinely only because of this utter relativity problem that has poisoned the minds of a lot of scientists. In fact, the entire goddamn world believes it, because it's really hard to disprove when you don't have something going relativistic speeds and proper ways of actually, testing this damn thing. And the people who have the satellites are the ones who are in charge and do it. But they're also duped somehow. It's not so much a conspiracy theorist thing, it's a fact. They get it wrong, and they all get it wrong. NASA gets it wrong, Veritasium gets it wrong, Einstein gets it wrong, all of them get it wrong. Because they're not understanding the physics of what's actually taking place.
Of course, Stella won't notice time slowing down. That's because all time-based processes in the ship will slow down as well. Clocks and electrical devices, Stella's biological activities including her rate of aging and her perception of time itself.
Okay, I don't give a shit about you talking about my rate of aging being any different. Because I don't know about you, but there are certain amounts of things like, I don't know, rot, that doesn't care how fast you're going. In fact, the faster or the more forces that there are, the more you're going to rot? Question mark? Because if you compress everything, that makes things decompose possibly more because there's more air around the stuff, blah 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 blah, something.
The only people who could notice time on the moving spaceship passing slower for Stella would be observers in an inertial or non-accelerating reference frame, like
The Earth is moving.
Terra back on Earth. Thus, Terra concludes that when they meet back on Earth, she'll be older than Stella. But that's
Let's just say that the Earth's not moving, rotating, going around the sun, and around the Milky Way and all that stuff, and years don't actually apply to the motion of the thing in the relative idea of the general thought experiment. Let's say none of that is actually happening, even though it is.
just one way of looking at things. Because all movement is relative, Stella argues it would be just as valid to say her spaceship will stand still while the rest of the universe, including Terra, moves around her. And
You know that if you're in a centrifuge, it's just the universe that's moving around super fast? So the reason why you, who is not moving, experiences this crazy motion towards the side of the carnival ride? It's a weird thing. How can you explain it? Shut up.
In that case, time will pass twice as slowly for Terra, making Stella the older twin in the end.
I have made
They
better
can't
videos
each be
about
older
this.
than
They
the other,
removed
so
my
which one of
previous
them is
channel
right?
because I made
This
videos
apparent contradiction
saying this is
known
stupid.
as the twin paradox. But
It
it's
is
not really
stupid.
a paradox, just an example of how special relativity can be easily misunderstood.
Oh
To
yeah.
test their theories in real time, each of the twins agrees to send a burst of light to the other every time a year has passed for them. Unlike other objects, the speed of light is always constant, regardless of an observer's reference frame. A
Uh-huh.
light burst sent from Earth will be measured at the same speed as a light burst sent from the spaceship, regardless of whether it's on its outbound or return trip.
Fascinating. Weird, huh? How that works. What?
So when one twin observes a burst of light, they're measuring how long it took the other twin to experience a year passing, plus how long it took for the light to travel between them. We can track what's happening on a graph. The x-axis
You realize, again, in a year, you will have traveled 86% the distance of a light year. Right? So if you know that you will send a signal and it will receive something.
axis marks distance from Earth, and the y-axis tracks the passage of time. From Terra's perspective, her path will simply be a vertical line, with distance equal to 0, and each tick on the line equivalent to a year as she perceives it. Stella's path will stretch from the same origin to a point 11.5 years in time and 10 light years in distance from Terra, before converging again at 0 distance and 23 years time.
Wait. Again, why is this a thing? What is that? Can you not do that? What is
At
that?
her first
Stop it.
1-year mark, Terra will send a pulse of light from Earth towards Stella's spaceship. Since light takes a year to travel,
Because you're moving away from the signal, it takes longer to get there.
1 light year, its path will be a 45-degree diagonal line. And because Stella is traveling away from it, by the time the light catches up to her, over 7 total years will have passed for Terra and over 4 for Stella. By the time Stella observes Terra's second burst, she will already be on her return journey. But now, since she's moving towards the source of light, it will take less time to reach her, and she'll observe the bursts more frequently. This means that Stella observes Terra aging slowly for the first half of...
No, it's just the distance of light traveled is either more and increasing as you go far away, and less and decreasing as you move towards. Duh.
her journey, but aging rapidly during the return half. Meanwhile for Stella, it seems as though Terra, the destination star, and the whole universe are moving around her. And because of length contraction, Stella observes the distance between them shrinking by a factor of 2. This means each leg of the trip will only take about 6 years from Stella's perspective.
Okay, each leg of the trip will take 6 years.
Reference frame. A light burst sent from Earth will be measured at the same speed as a light burst sent from the spaceship, regardless of whether it's on its outbound or return trip. So when one twin observes a burst of light, they're measuring how long it took the other twin to experience a year passing, plus how long it took for the light to travel between them. We can track what's happening on a graph. The x-axis marks distance from Earth, and the y-axis tracks the passage of time. From Terra's perspective,
How long do they say they're going to travel and whatever, blah blah blah?
as they prepare to part ways, the twins wonder what will happen when they're reunited. Since a light year is exactly the distance light can travel in a year, Stella's journey should take 23
Okay, look. The fir-
Take about 6 years from Stella's perspective. When she sent
when you send the first signal, you're only 80% of a light year away. So it doesn't take.
the first signal to Earth, 2 years will have passed for Terra.
It doesn't. No. I'm jittery with pissed offness. Okay, look. How long does it take light to go 86% the distance of a light year? Oh yeah. 80% the length of a year. Meaning, after the first signal, okay, which occurred nearby, minus 13% the light year, okay. Okay. If you take 86 and multiply it by 2, you end up with 17. So or 170, I mean. Such. Right? You got 172. So 172%, so that means 72% of a year plus the initial year. No, it's a lot simpler than that. The signal was sent 86% of the light year away from Earth. That's where it was sent from. So you take a year, you add 86% of a year to that. That's when the signal's going to come back from Stella. So when you're saying over 2 years, you're very much wrong. It's not over 2 years. It's less than 2 years. It's like screw you, man. How do you fail this?
Stella will send 4 more light bursts during her outbound journey, each one from farther away.
Again, every year, the multiple is 86% the distance of a light year. So, consistent rate, the signals would come back with consistency, but not at this rate. It would be faster. How do you get the math wrong? I don't know.
Time Terra observes the first pulse from Stella's inbound journey, over 21 years will have passed for her. For the rest of Stella's return home, Terra receives multiple light bursts each year. Thus, Terra observes Stella aging slowly for about 90% of their 23 years apart, and aging rapidly during the last 10%.
This is, first of all, you did bad math. Second of all, you're not even correct about how time moves independently of the signals that you're receiving. Time is consistent everywhere because the speed of light is a constant. It doesn't change. The thing that changes is the distance it's had to travel. Get that in your head. I'm sorry that you're wrong. Let's move on from this. I will not even tell them this is the live stream. I'm just saying. I responded. Okay? There's no way, and I do not care, to explain. I just don't care to explain when I responded and all of that. And I don't care to show you the links to these things. Electric train. This is actually cute and fun. Amazing Science from so many years ago. Am I not subscribed to this? This is neat. It's cute. It is a thing. And I feel like my ranting about how time relativity, blah 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 blah, it's just wrong, and I'm sad that people still believe it. Everyone with the simultaneity. B was first. It wasn't first. The problem is, if I were to unsubscribe from everyone who gets math wrong, I would have to unsubscribe from every motherfucker on the internet. I don't want to subscribe to people who get it wrong. Hot take, gravity is still a force. Guess what? Hot take? Yeah, gravity is a force, because guess what? Electromagnetism flows through mass. The relative connection between electrons and protons is the electromagnetic field itself. And that field has other ways of connecting to mass at different distances, and that's how all of these connections are out in outer space. And if you could somehow shield the electromagnetism of the sun by putting in a Dyson sphere, everything would fly off. That's my prediction. Put the sun in a Dyson sphere, and if you were able to cover all the electromagnetism so that it becomes null and void, everything in the solar system is going to fly off. Don't do that. I'm just saying. This particle spins at 3,300 times the speed of light. Okay, listen. Angular momentum is different than actual motion through space. Motion through space is one thing. Spinning about your own axis is a different thing entirely. And you would say, well, the edges of your body are moving through space at relativistic speeds and all that junk. I'm not getting into it. We've done enough. What?
We scientists who release this immense power have overwhelming responsibility in this world life and death struggle to harness out for benefit of mankind and not for mankind's destruction. We beg you to support our efforts to bring realization.
So how do they get the color factors? Probably from all sorts of different references to explain, yes, this is the color that we are pretty sure that it was.
To America, that mankind's destiny is being decided today, now, this moment. We ask your help in this fateful moment as sign that we scientists do not stand alone. I agree.
Yeah. If any video...
The beam of light gets too bright.
Shut up! Where the hell did I go? I wanted to be here. Shut up. I wanted to be here. Why did I end up somewhere else? I don't know. Who gives a shit? Oh, for fuck's sakes. Well, I don't care for the other video, probably. Who knows? But it's like, yeah, let's have scientists work and cooperate and everything. Superconductor, woo! I mean, lower temperatures, yeah. You're still having, like, all the energy be flowing through it, because the lower temperatures make everything kind of like crystals and stuff. So magnets and all of that, it flows really nice through all of that because of the constraints of the crystals and such, atomically. So, yeah, quantum levitation. Yeah, we already get that. Yeah, we've seen, this is an understood phenomenon. It makes sense. It's also interesting that it does levitate instead of like only attract or only, because the amount of push and pull with the electromagnetism is it's like there's an equilibrium, it reaches that, and it's based on the amount of energy going through and stuff. So if you were to increase the amount, I mean, you have neodymium magnets there, so it has to it has a very big per section amount of electromagnetism. That being said, so if you had something bigger, you could levitate something bigger if you could keep it cool enough. Blah 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 blah. I don't see the point in this video. It's like, yeah, let's all work together. I agree. I'm moving on. I'm done. For now, I'm done. What the fuck? Most of C versus C, no. I never understood why you can't go fast enough into light until now. Oh my god. Oh wait, this floathead do I know this guy? Oh, it's you again. Not to say that I don't have a lot of faith in your complete and not based on anything other than what I have observed of the logic that is in the videos, and I have watched them. Trust me, I have watched some of them. So you can see how I've watched this one, that one, that one, that one, and others. I don't have a lot of, and again, if you're going to talk about simultaneity stuff, paradox, and you're not getting the answer right, that's an F-. I'm moving on to someone else who can tell me something that is actually factual, considering. But I'll listen to other stuff. Andromeda paradox. What are you talking about? I listen. There is in the whole. Again, space-time bending doesn't happen. Does not happen. You know, there's a lot of science to get through, and again, I can talk about air balloons, the speed of light, electrons, and a lot of other things, and I get off topic, and I talk about a kilometer-wide balloon, and again, I'm not wrong in saying the light's not going to hit the mirror, so it can't come back to you. No light would hit the mirror. If you were to look backwards, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Or everything would, depending on how it all works, The closer you get to the speed of light, light would become dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it's totally not able to keep up with you and it'd be dark. Right? The only thing you see is the stuff that's in front of you. Directly in front of you. You look to the side, it's this big wall. Embrace the wall. That's perspective. And perspective can be faulty. You need to compensate. Blah, I'm done.